Level 1. You're invisible, and you don't know why. You think your rank in the dating market is fixed, like it's a number printed on you at birth, and the best you can do is accept it. The wild part is, the data actually agrees with you. Sort of. An engineer at Hinge analyzed the share of likes going to the most popular men on the app and found the inequality was stark. The top 1% of guys receive more than 16% of all likes. When researchers compared that distribution to global wealth inequality using the Gini index, the male dating economy on Hinge ranked as the 8th most unequal system in the world, on par with countries experiencing kleptocracy and civil war. So yeah, the numbers are brutal. If that's where the story ended, this would be a pretty depressing video. But rank isn't what you think it is. By the end of this, you're going to understand why the guy at the top of the hierarchy is dealing with a problem almost nobody talks about, and why you, if you're at the bottom, are closer to a jump than you realize. We're going level by level, and I'm saving the one that changes everything for last. This is where level 1 actually lives. You're in your mid-20s. Maybe you've had a relationship or two. Maybe you haven't. You open a dating app. You swipe right on basically everyone. You get almost nothing back. When you do match, you send something like, "Hey," or "How's your week going?" and the conversation dies in 3 messages. You assume it's your photos. You get new photos. Same result. You assume it's your height, your job, your face. You start reading forums where men compare themselves to each other with clinical precision, assigning decimal ratings like livestock. You absorb this framework completely because it's the only one anyone's offering you. What's actually happening is simpler and more fixable. OkCupid data showed that women rate about 80% of men as below average in attractiveness. That sounds devastating until you realize what it means. The threshold for standing out has almost nothing to do with genetics and almost everything to do with how you present. You send the same opener to 40 women and call it effort. You're not losing because of your face. You're losing because you're playing a volume game in an environment that rewards specificity. The rank gap at the bottom isn't mostly a genetics gap. It's a laziness gap dressed up as destiny. The environment matters more than almost anyone admits. Psychologists call it the reference group effect. Your status isn't absolute. It's relative to the room you're standing in. You haven't changed your social environment in years. Same city, same friend group, same apps, same bars. You're structurally low status in that specific ecosystem, and you've concluded that's just who you are. You haven't considered that the same version of you, in a different room, might register completely differently. That's usually what finally moves you into level 2. Level 2. You start doing things, but for the wrong reasons. Something happens. A breakup. A bad night out where you watch someone else get the girl. A moment of genuine humiliation you can't shake. And you change. But here's the thing about how identity change actually works. It doesn't happen gradually, like an XP bar filling up. Research on life course psychology shows it tends to happen in discrete jumps, triggered by specific events, after which behavior reorganizes fast. You don't slowly become a different person. You hit a wall, and then you're different. You start going to the gym. You read. You dress better. You work on your career. All good things, but your internal motivation is still entirely reactive. You're doing all of it to prove something to someone who rejected you, or to become the kind of person who wouldn't get rejected again. Your confidence is performance. You walk into a room, and you're scanning for approval. You can feel it on yourself. Women can definitely feel it. This is also the stage where you discover the get a deeper voice content, the alpha body language content, the whole ecosystem of self-improvement that's technically correct but missing something important. Research on vocal pitch and perceived dominance actually shows a curvilinear relationship. Lower pitch does read as more dominant, but only up to a point. Past that point, it starts reading as try-hard and insincere. You over-engineer your voice. You've learned the rule but not the calibration. You're better than level 1, measurably. But you're still broadcasting need, and need is the thing that collapses attraction faster than almost anything else. Which is exactly the problem level 3 starts to solve. Level 3, you figure out that other people are your best advertisement. Here's the one you probably never fully understand, and it's the reason the "get a girlfriend to get a girlfriend" cliché actually has teeth. Studies have found that women rate men in photographs as significantly more attractive when another woman is visibly smiling at that man, and this holds regardless of the initial attractiveness of the men involved. Mate choice copying is the tendency to find potential partners more attractive when they've already been chosen by someone else. It's not jealousy, it's a social proof shortcut that evolved because evaluating a stranger from scratch is expensive. If other people have already done the vetting, that information is useful. You start to understand this intuitively. You stop trying to directly assert your value. You stop leading with your salary, your gym stats, your accomplishments. You let that information arrive through context instead. Other people's behavior toward you, the way a room responds when you walk in, an offhand mention rather than a direct claim. Social psychology on persuasion has known for decades that the same fact lands completely differently depending on whether you say it about yourself or someone else says it about you. You figure this out, and your results change almost immediately. You also start being more selective about your environment. You stop trying to be impressive in rooms where you're structurally invisible. You start finding rooms where your specific combination of traits actually registers. That's not retreating. That's portfolio thinking, and it's the bridge into level 4. Level 4, your behavior changes before your mindset does, and that's fine. Here's something the self-improvement world gets backwards. Most of it tells you to fix your mindset first, and the behavior will follow. Embodied cognition research suggests it works the other way around just as often. Posture, pacing, vocal projection, acting confident can precede and actually induce the internal feeling of confidence. You don't need to feel it first. You do it first, and the feeling catches up. You internalize this. You're not waiting to feel ready. You approach when you're nervous. You hold eye contact when it's uncomfortable. You slow down when your instinct is to rush. And because you keep doing those things, they stop feeling like performance. They become default. This is also the stage where something measurable shifts in how you handle scarcity and abundance. Behavioral research on scarcity psychology shows it changes concrete things: how fast you respond to a message, how long you hold eye contact, how willing you are to disengage from a conversation that isn't going anywhere. You're measurably slower to chase and faster to walk away, not because you're playing games, because you actually have other things going on, and you're no longer running on fumes of desperation. If you're finding this useful, drop a comment with which level you think you're at right now. Seriously, the comment section on these videos always turns into something worth reading, and it helps more people find this. Subscribe if you haven't already, because the follow-up to this one goes somewhere most people don't expect. Because once your behavior stops being performance, something bigger becomes possible. That's level 5. Level 5. You're genuinely high value in your specific context, and you've stopped trying to be universally high value. This is where the rank framework starts to fall apart in an interesting way. Large-scale studies on partner matching consistently show that people pair off with others of similar overall desirability, but desirability itself is multidimensional. Looks, status, warmth, ambition, humor, stability, those dimensions get traded off against each other. You don't need to max every category. You need to stack whichever combination outcompetes your specific pool. That reframes the whole thing from a single stat to grind into something more like portfolio optimization. You've figured out your portfolio. You're not trying to be everyone's type. You're very clearly someone's type, and you know exactly which room to walk into to make that obvious. Your standards are genuinely high, not performatively high. You're not pretending to be selective to seem valuable. You're actually selective because you've spent enough time with yourself to know what you actually want, and settling feels worse than waiting. You've also learned how to let information about yourself arrive indirectly. You don't talk about your accomplishments. Your environment communicates them. The way people treat you in public, the quality of your friendships, the projects you're working on that you mention once and don't elaborate on. This is the difference between low-rank and high-rank self-presentation, not confidence level, but information source. And this is exactly where most self-improvement content stops, which is a problem because it isn't actually the top. Level 6. You reach the top and discover it has its own problem. This is the one almost nobody in this space talks about, and it's the reason I saved it for last. Psychologist Barry Schwartz spent years studying what happens when people have too many options. His research, originally about consumer choices, found that past a certain threshold, more options don't make you happier. They make you worse at choosing. They create chronic second-guessing, indecision, and inability to commit. You reach genuinely high status in the dating market, and you report a version of this exact thing. The abundance you worked so hard to create starts working against you. Every option comes with the awareness of all the other options. Every relationship gets evaluated against an imaginary alternative. The thing you were chasing turns out to be its own psychological trap, and most self-improvement content never mentions it because it doesn't fit the narrative of the journey having a clean finish line. You're not broken. You've just arrived somewhere that requires a completely different skill set than the one that got you there. Getting there required learning how to not need anyone. Thriving there requires learning how to genuinely choose someone. Those are almost opposite abilities. You don't need volume anymore. You need discernment. You are thinking about permanence now, not proof. And the men who figure that out, who can hold abundance without letting it hollow them out, those are the ones who actually win. So here's where you've been. At level 1, you're invisible and blaming fixed things. At level 2, you're doing the work but still performing for an audience. At level 3, you understand that other people are your best signal. At level 4, you act your way into confidence instead of waiting for it. At level 5, you optimize your specific portfolio instead of chasing universal approval. At level 6, you learn that the finish line you are running toward is actually just the starting line for a harder question. The thing that changes from the beginning of this video to the end isn't the information, it's the frame. Rank was never a fixed number. It was always a combination of environment, behavior, and what you're actually optimizing for. And those three things, every single one of them, are things you can change. If this made you think differently about where you are, the next video is going to hit even harder. Watch it.